Okay, how's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, well, so in today's episode, I thought I'd try to say something about the cryptic ancient Greek philosopher and pre-Socratic Heraclitus. Okay, so what Heraclitus is reported to have said is this. He said, "One cannot step into the same river twice." So what does he mean by that exactly? Well, I think that here he's saying more than the obvious thing that no two things are precisely alike. No, what he's fundamentally saying is that no one thing is ever the same twice. So if you step into the same river twice, you're really not stepping into it twice for the reason that the river is always flowing and therefore changing. And so it's never the same river as it was in any moment in the past. Actually, I think that maybe Heraclitus also thinks that the reason you can't step into the same river twice is because not just the river, but also the one who steps into it is always changing too, and so is never at any two moments identical with themselves. Now, that everything is in a constant state of flux is well known by scientists and physicists today, of course, by anybody who studies physical phenomena. To them, it is well known that energy transformations and processes and growth and degeneration and that nothing is exactly repeated is what characterizes reality. As Max Born said, the fact is, it's a restless universe. Actually, in this sense, I think that Heraclitus might have felt more at home today than he did in his own time and intellectual culture. Anyway, but here's the thing. That everything is in flux may be the accepted orientation of science, but I don't think it is for most of us. It's not something that most of us are comfortable with, to say the least. To put it bluntly, on the whole, we tend to resist change. I mean, we often live according to maxims and creeds and traditions that we know can be questioned and that have become pretty much meaningless. You know, like father, like son. But how can that be true if no two things are identical? Well, it can't, and maybe it shouldn't be. And then there are all of our generalizations and our naming of things. I mean, we have this inherent tendency, it seems, to be much more attracted to similarities than to differences. And this is heavily reflected in our language, in our semantics. For example, as one commentator put it, we always speak of falling in love rather than of fallings in loves. But to put it in the first way, what it does is it dismisses the differences of each of our experiences in love. I mean, after all, every such experience is unique to itself, and it constitutes its own little world. Everything has its own particularity. Love 10 years ago is different from love today. Or think about this. I mean, for example, think about how resistant we are to change our minds about things. Like how reticent we are in growing from adolescence to maturity or in facing the different stages of life. It's like we're all slightly maladjusted because we don't want to face the reality of change and we don't want to admit in new information. Or here's another example. Think about how many of us yearn for the good old age of the past and how we hate the present state of things and fear the oncoming collapse of civilization. And this is, of course, a very old pattern. I mean, it goes right back to Hesiod and his 5 ages of man. You know, how there's been this long passage of continuous degeneration from the Golden Age right down to the Iron Age. But here's the thing. Maybe what we're doing here is just identifying goodness with sameness and similarity over time. And so when change happens, when a rupture suddenly takes place, we automatically and so unjustifiably see it as something ominous and bad. Okay, but But here's the thing. I have to confess that I myself fall prey to this worry and this cynicism about our present and our future age. I mean, today, more than any other, it seems, I think you could argue that Heraclitus' river is at its highest. It's rising precipitously with all of its swirling eddies and torrents and meandering, aimless streams. And really, I don't mean to be hyperbolic here, though of course I may be. But you see, I don't think it's controversial to say that our technological world is clearly one that's marked by a tremendous pace and acceleration of life, where everything whizzes by in seconds and then dissipates into thin air. And it's one marked also by a growing discontinuity and a fragmentation, not to mention the restlessness and the anxiety that all of this, of course, provokes. Now, you might say that this is just another type of change, so big deal. Yeah, but there's something increasingly ungovernable and directionless about what's happening today, I would say. You see, here's the thing. For all of his emphasis on change, at least Heraclitus saw in all of it a kind of principle of order, something he famously called the logos. Now, the Greek word logos is pretty hard to pin down, but I think what Heraclitus meant by it in this context is something like this. What he meant is that there's a sort of hidden harmony or underlying rhythm or measure or proportion that governs change. Now, measure and harmony, those are words worth pausing on. Because where is the direction and the measure behind all of the change and the rush today? We seem to be creating more and more without end or purpose, burning more coal, building more compute power, creating more nuclear weapons. Exponential growth on all fronts, despite an Earth busting at its seams. I don't know, there's something about the ancient Greeks that I've always admired, including Heraclitus. And that is that despite their Promethean rebellion and incredible accomplishments, they always supplicated themselves to the wisdom-backed principle of moderation. Moderation, not just the mother of all virtues, but up until now, the mother of the changing seasons. Bye for now.